Today we learn about PowerPoint for genealogy. Now we're going to see how to manipulate and fix family and other pictures by using PowerPoint to edit photos, one of my favorite uses. The first key is to click on a picture to see the picture format ribbon. It does not show until we click on a picture. You can see it's full of tools. As a former Photoshop instructor, when I want to make a quick change to a picture, I do it in PowerPoint, where I can get the whole thing done while Photoshop is still opening. These are all the tools, and bigger to see the detail. You're gonna fall in love with some of these. Have you had this happen? This picture is one of my favorites, my mother and I hugging. It's a nice picture, but I want the hug to be front and center. Let's see how we can use PowerPoint to improve this photo that is close, but no cigar. First, I always go to the corrections tool to soften or sharpen the image. I tend to sharpen most pictures, but a close-up of a face I will soften, especially with wrinkles. Also under corrections, I brighten the image a little. I can also see there's too much pink in the picture, so I go to color and desaturate it just a tad. Desaturate means to take out the color. If I desaturate it all the way down, it becomes black and white. Then I decide to make the image an oval. Even after using a picture style, I can still use the crop tool and push in the black handles to remove part of the outside of the image. After reviewing it, I can click Reset Picture to start over. Now I select the most complex tool called Remove Background. The tool automatically puts a pink mask over any part of the image to remove it. I choose to mark areas to keep when it tries to remove part of me and my mom. I want to keep those. Then I see some pink in her elbow, so I take that out. Then I choose to keep changes. To slightly soften the edges, I click Picture Effects, Soft Edges, and choose to remove the outside one point. This helps soften the jaggies. Here's the finished picture. Did you know PowerPoint could do all that? Let's look at some of these tools in more detail. Here's an image of Lucas with a bit of peanut butter evidence on his cheek. Let's use artistic effects to make the image more interesting. The middle section distorts too much for an image of a person, so we'll stay away from those. Here's marker, which is interesting. Pencil grayscale, which is very cool, but it's a little distorted. So I like the other option, pencil sketch. Now my sister's an artist and she can do this, but now so can I. And this is called cutout. In Photoshop, this is called posterize, so it looks like an old style poster. The last one here is photocopy. Let's see a tip on what you can do with that. Create a stylized image for his book cover. Use the artistic effect photocopy, then in color, I saturate to see the color with more intensity. Did you know PowerPoint could do this? Let's look a little more in depth at the corrections tool with my cousins Tracy and Kirk. Keep in mind you can simply hover over a tool to see what it can do. You don't have to commit until you click. Even then, you can always reset the picture. After clicking on the picture, I click the corrections button and see what softening and sharpening can do. This image is in focus, so there's no need to adjust. Then I hover over brightness and contrast options from minus 40% brightness and contrast to plus 40% of each. Then in color, I desaturate to take out the sepia. What do you think? Useful? And remember, right-click on the image to save it as a JPEG or other picture format like PNG, which doesn't degrade. Here's a tip for power users. If you want to tweak the brightness and contrast settings, and even the sharpen and soften settings, click Picture Corrections Options. To see more options using sliders or numbers, you can bump up by 1% at a time, like increasing brightness by 10% and contrast by 3%, one of my favorite settings that isn't built in. Have you had this happen? This is from our tour to the old LDS Family History Center, but Jimmy looks better in another picture. However, the audience doesn't look as good in the other one. Two half-great photos of the same thing. PowerPoint has a fix for that. See now? Crop out all but Jimmy to merge the two half-great photos into one great photo. Let's see all the tools that can help you do that. These tools are under picture format: crop, picture effects, soft edges, and group, which looks different when you have a bigger screen, and only becomes active when you select more than one image by clicking on the first image, then using Control plus click to add each additional image. Plus one new tool on the Home tab to display a new pane. Under the Arrange button, click Selection pane. With the Selection pane, you can see all the items on the screen, even if they're stacked over each other. Just click the eyeball icon to hide it or show it. Using all these tools together created one better image. Here's a tip for when you want pictures in order to keep yourself organized. In the Selection pane, double-click on the image or text box, name to rename it so you can tell them apart, which will show on the Animation pane too. In the next section, we'll talk more about animation. What's wrong with this photo? Gertrude's eyes are closed. Let's open them. How? I have another picture of just her with her eyes open. I'm going to put the open eyes over her closed eyes like glasses. Let's see it step by step. First, under color, we prepare by desaturating to make both images basically the same color, grayscale. Next, we use crop two different ways. First, I have it on my quick access toolbar. I want mostly her eyes. Then I see that it needs to be rotated to match the original. That's the circle that you click and drag to rotate it. Now we need to use the full crop for crop to shape to make the image oval, which blends in better on a face than a square. But we want even more blending. Under picture effects is soft edges that we used on my hugging picture. Here's a caution though, only use it after you've resized the image, otherwise it might disappear. I use it to blend in the edges by 10 points. Remember, we did it before by 1 point, but now it's really going to be soft. I put the eyeball glasses on her. Now corrections for sharpen and soften plus brightness and contrast will help make two different images look like they were taken at the same time. Matching the lighting and focus is key when blending them. And black and white is easier than color. Then we group. Select all the layers of the picture using Control-click on each one. Then Group will turn them into one big group. Group keeps them together so it's easy to move, hide, and even animate. Then right-click on the picture and select Save as Picture. Once it's a picture, you can enhance it as one unit, like to brighten it, or add the sepia back, or resize it. You can also fix one sleeve of a colorized photo, helping AI look better by adding some color to it. Here's a tip for another blending tool, transparency. Use it to see if the front image lines up correctly with the back image, or to make it blend in better. Here's a scenario you might have if you use Ancestry and you don't have a profile photo for them. This family has lots of kids, but which one is your ancestor? It's hard to remember every ancestor, right? It can be frustrating to click each child to find it's the last one. Why not create a visual cue? Can you tell now? You only put it on the sibling who is your ancestor. Of course, sometimes more than one is your ancestor. Put it on both, but at least it narrows it down. The visual cue could be as simple as a text box with a colorful background, or as complex as finding the right image and positioning a text box over it. You can create one for each type of ancestor. Let's create a visual cue step by step. This is the same process for any photo montage. I start with a picture and I change the height and width to be the same number to make a square like 2 by 2 or 4 by 4. You may have to crop it first to make it more square. Next, under Home, create a text box. Remember to put the text in? Use words that help identify what it is, like Civil War soldier, immigrant, Norwegian, DAR ancestor, etc. Use a chunky font in the right color and hit the S to add a shadow to make it easier to read over the multiple colors, even if they are black and white. Finally, hit Control plus click to select them, then click Group to group them all together as one image. When you have a small group of images to select, instead of Control click, just click and drag around the whole selection before clicking Group. If you have trouble lining up the objects, here's a useful tool called Align, under both Shape Format and Picture Format. Simply select what you want to align, then choose how you want them aligned, like Center, then Bottom. Once it's aligned and grouped, you can save it as a picture. Remember how? Right-click and Save as Picture. Use the same process to create a Facebook cover photo montage. I saved them on my 2 terabyte external hard drive in my Genealogy folder in the first subfolder called Ancestry Photos, so they're easy to find whenever I'm adding new ancestors in Ancestry. Make sense?